a mega project in which more than 150 countries in the world participated, where new airports, motorways, and seaports were promised to be built, where dreams of the future of Dubai and Singapore were shown. But today, these mega projects seem incomplete, and dreams seem broken in these countries. Under the burden of some debts, they present a scene of some ruins. This was China's largest global mega project, which was named Belt and Road Initiative. There was a time when everyone called it the project of the century, but today it is called geopolitical disaster. And its greatest loss was to those poor countries whose beautiful dreams were shown. But what happened that people are pointing fingers at a superpower like China today? Welcome again to VEVO Explore videos. Viewers, in 2013, when China's President Xi Jinping announced the Belt and Road Initiative, it was called the biggest plan of the century. Its purpose was to build a Silk Road in which Asia, Africa, and Europe could be connected via railway lines, highways, and ports. China's mission was to bring those poor countries on the path of development and present China as a global leader. This vision of China shocked the world. More than 140 countries expressed interest in this plan, and many poor countries immediately started taking loans from China. Soon after, China invested $1.2 trillion in this project. But this money was given to those countries in the form of loans, which Western banks or IMF had refused to lend, considering it dangerous. But soon, the reality of the BRI emerged. It was not just an infrastructure project, but a geopolitical and economic agenda of China. In fact, China's industrial capacity had increased so much that millions of engineers were coming to it annually, but it was becoming difficult for them to adjust to jobs in China. That's when China planned to export them and increase its geopolitical power.
There was little interest in loans, but if the loan was not returned, China had the power to seize the project. Anyway, the construction was done, but the Hambantota port could never run. Feasibility studies showed that there was no need for a port here, and the situation was that only 30 to 40 ships stopped over here throughout the year. Now that the port was not running, the payment of the loan also became an issue. It got to the point that in 2017, under an agreement, Sri Lanka had to give the port to a Chinese company for 99 years. Now the entire revenue of that port goes only to China, and Sri Lanka somehow lost a part of its sovereignty. But Sri Lanka was not the only one trapped in this trap. Africa's small country Zambia, which is only alive on copper exports, is also trapped in this trap. The leaders there dreamed of making the economy modern and started many projects with the help of Chinese loans. They were given this narrative that the conditions of IMF and Western countries' loans are very tough, but they never paid attention to the downside of Chinese loan conditions, those conditions that said that if the loan was not returned, China would seize their assets. But the price of these dreams was very high. Until 2020, 43% of Zambia's total loans were with China alone. And in November 2020, when trade and tourism ended due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the demand for copper decreased, Zambia defaulted. BRI also made many projects that were of no use at all. These are called white elephant projects. That is, those projects that look big and magnificent, but they have no practical benefit. Montenegro is a small country in Europe that took a $1 billion loan from China in 2014. The purpose of this loan was to build the Bol-Yer Highway. But the planning of this project was so bad that after cutting down the mountains, the highway was built, but all the money was spent in this small section. Now there is only a 41-kilometer road here that does not go to any destination. So much money was spent on this small section that the entire economy of the country was shaken. Now, Montenegro's loan is more than 80% of their GDP, and they have to ask IMF and the European Union for help. Sri Lanka also built an airport near the Hambantota port so that there could be some development nearby. Matala Rajapaksa International Airport was built at a cost of $200 million, and this money was also taken from China in the form of a loan. But neither the airlines took interest nor the passengers came. Today, the situation is that this airport is called the world's emptiest airport because there are very few flights here. Sometimes you can even see elephants and animals roaming on the runway here. There is a small country called Ecuador on the west coast of South America, and it is also trapped in the jungle of BRI. To solve their energy crisis, they made a $2.6 billion dam called Coca-Cola Sinclair with China. But during construction, Chinese contractors ignored quality standards, and later it was found that the officials were bribed to run the work. The result was that today there are more than 17,000 cracks on the walls of the dam. Today this project is in danger of collapsing at any time, which can not only be an economic disaster, but also a very big human and environmental crisis. Then came the turn of Pakistan, CPEC, i.e., China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which was planned for $60 billion for Pakistan. Pakistan had hoped from CPEC that electricity, jobs, and progress would be achieved, but more projects were delayed or failed. People of Gwadar protested a lot against water, electricity, and the Chinese government. Jobs promises were not fulfilled, and the burden of loans on Pakistan continued to increase. Now the situation is that Gwadar port used to belong to the Pakistani Authority. Now it belongs to China. 91% of its revenue is taken by the Chinese, while only the remaining 9% comes to Pakistan. BRI was shocked when the only country of G7, Italy, which was included in it, announced to leave it. China had not given Italy a direct cash loan, but had signed an MOU, i.e., Memorandum of Understanding, which promised Chinese investment and trade deals. But not many projects were materialized, and Italy got very little economic benefit. That's why Italy later named it Big Mistake and left BRI. Apart from Italy, countries like Malaysia, Myanmar, Bangladesh, and Nepal have either approved some projects of the Belt and Road Initiative or reaffirmed their conditions. Seeing this failure, America and Europe have also started their alternative initiatives, such as PGII, Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, and Europe's Global Gateway Program. These projects promise transparent and low-interest loans so that they can be saved from China's debt trap. But as a result, relations between China and Russia have strengthened. Russia felt isolated after the war against Ukraine, so it tried to get closer to China through BRI. This is creating a new geopolitical axis, which can be a new challenge for American dominance. After spending 10 years and trillions of dollars, the Belt and Road Initiative is considered the biggest foreign policy failure in modern history. The biggest reason for this failure was that BRI was never for development, but for China's own benefit.
China wanted to export its extra industrial capacity, reach raw materials, and increase its geopolitical power. In addition, most of the loans China gave were in Chinese yuan because China also wanted to promote its currency. Today, the Belt and Road Initiative is on a new turn. China is rebranding it as BRI 2.0, which focuses more on digital infrastructure, green energy, and sustainable projects. But the world is no longer ready to believe in promises. Now the country will accept projects that can provide real economic benefits, not just increase the burden of loans. The question is, where other countries suffered so much loss from BRI, did China benefit from it or not? In fact, what China wanted did not happen. China wanted to increase its control over the world, but because of BRI, it was labeled as a debt trap diplomacy. Because of BRI, China's own economy slowed. China now has the liability to take back billions of dollars in loans and run the projects it has seized. On the other hand, China has taken a direct or indirect stake in more than 100 ports around the world through BRI, which is very beneficial for China's export economy. If the entire BRI network is completed, it will be the longest road, rail, sea connection from Asia to Europe, in which 65% of the world's population can be covered. I hope you will like and share this video of VEVO Explore. Thank you very much for your loving comments.
See you in the next great video.